everybody. How you doing?
That good?
That is so incredible. And hello, my name's Micah.
My name's Jordan McCaw.
And we are married.
And this is the Macaw Podcast Universe.
And we are talking about film franchises. Are we not, Jordan?
Yes, we are. And why are we here? We're here for another reason, too.
And I think we exist to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to do this. You know, if someone came out with this podcast, say in the 90s, it would be a whole other ball game. Because you had straight series back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And these days, you got your superhero series that's got series within series. It's worlds within worlds. It's like we're over here.
That's a quote from something. It's worlds within worlds.
It's from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
No, but there's like a sitcom or something. There's a joke.
Oh, okay. But it is. She says I was about to say it's like we're in Subatomica is what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Which of course are quotes from the comics, not really the movie in a
Yeah.
way. And we're talking about Deadpool 2 today. Capiche?
Yep.
So, now I gotta do a little setting up here because myself throughout this podcast, I have kind of convinced myself that Deadpool sucks and kind of convinced myself that Ryan Reynolds sucks and that I don't like these two movies. We rewatched Deadpool 1 and I thought, yeah, I like that movie. It's good. It's not my favorite movie in the world. I wouldn't even probably put it in a top 10 favorite superhero movie, but I like it. And then we're sitting down to watch this, and I feel a little Ryan Reynolds refreshed. I felt good about Deadpool, and I remember that this movie, upon its release, I did not like this movie. I really
straight
didn't like
up
this
did not
movie.
like it.
Right? Wasn't that the conversation we had leaving the theater?
I don't remember straight up not liking it. I just remember having a lot of issues and just thinking this is definitely not as good as the first one.
Maybe it took a little bit, but I definitely got to a point where it was like, oof, and Deadpool 2, yikes, is that a slog and not a good movie? And now we're going to get into whether that has changed, remained the same, whatever. But
well, if you could just talk about your experience, I'll talk about mine.
Yeah.
I felt the same way in terms of the time farther spent apart from Deadpool. I was like, it's not as good as I originally thought it was, the first movie.
Yeah.
And then as you listen to in our Deadpool episode, that movie holds up. It's great.
Yeah.
But I also felt that way about Deadpool 2. And I do remember when we saw it, I do remember thinking, not as good as the first one, not unwatchable, not boring or anything. But I didn't think it was a bad movie.
Yeah.
Got a lot of issues.
Right. What do you think now?
I actually think I feel somewhat similar this time around. Although it was funnier than I remember it being.
Yeah. I think I just convinced myself that the Deadpool joke had worn off. And you know what? I think part of that is I listen to a lot of Blank Check, and I don't think they like these movies. So part of it is them like kind of making fun of these movies, and being influenced by that. But I think the other part is like, I just got so tired of Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool in movies where he's not Deadpool.
Yep.
Because here's the other thing. I mean, last year we talked a lot in the Hobbs and Shaw episode about Ryan Reynolds, and I really went off and went crazy. And
I think you hurt his feelings.
I think I may have. Like, they're not going ahead with Deadpool 3 now.
And bought a football team.
Yeah, with Rob
McElhenney.
Yeah.
I think that's because you made him sad.
Well, I guess good for him. He got a hit TV show out of it. Yeah, So I was pretty much like, I'm done with Ryan Reynolds, and I was dreading rewatching these, even though I found him charming and spirited, and I thought maybe this is a new zone of Ryan Reynolds. And also, this is the reason why I still cannot get myself to watch Free Guy. As much as I've had a lot of people I know and trust tell me, no, it's good, I'm like, I just can't watch it. So when we watched Deadpool and then Deadpool 2, I guess when he's Deadpool, it just totally works. I really, because his performance was not at all. He was not the problems that I have with this movie, and his performance isn't. And so that it actually made me I'm kind of like pretty excited about Deadpool 3 now. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of ready to see that.
Like the first movie, this one it gets caught up very quickly in superhero stuff,
Mhm.
uh, as it should, I guess. But like what we covered in the first movie, the story structure of that one was so refreshing compared to all of these superhero movies we've
Yeah.
had up until that point. And I would still say that that's the same here. There's still, I not as much,
Yeah.
not as refreshing or feels new, but still, they're still doing fun stuff with like story structure.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we left the movie, I thought to myself, like, that was the exact same movie as the first movie.
I think I feel the same way, but I don't really feel
Yeah,
that way.
I don't
Of
agree
course,
with
they're gonna
that.
do some of the same jokes,
Yeah.
but like other than that, it doesn't feel like a ripoff. It didn't feel lazy.
No, it definitely
Well,
didn't.
the only way it felt lazy is when the superhero stuff clogged all of it up.
Yeah. Um, yeah. but I was thinking when we were watching it last night, the first act of this movie, I was like, oh, this is better than the first movie. I think I'm just like going to have one of those experiences that happens often on the show where it's like, oh, I just don't agree with my old opinion
Mm-hmm.
of this movie. But once you meet the kid, for me, this movie just starts going downhill after that, and it never recovers once you meet the
Let's
kid.
talk about the kid.
Oh,
Julian
okay.
Dennison plays Fire Fist. Oh my gosh, there was a hair on the
pop filter.
pop filter, and it's poking me.
Yeah, it's probably one of yours.
No,
Well,
it's one of
probably
Gilmore's.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good
Julian
boy.
Dennison is also in Hunt for the Wilder People. I'm sure he is best known for that.
Well,
Which
he's
is
best known for this now, but before
well,
that, yeah.
but that's a really charming and wonderful Taika Waititi movie that also stars Sam Neill. Man, the
Mhm.
movie was so nice. He's also in Godzilla vs. Kong. I don't remember that.
No, not at all.
He's in Shopping, The Christmas Chronicles Part 2.
Oh, part 2.
I didn't know Goldie Hawn was in it.
Yeah. I
Still
believe
not gonna watch it.
I think at the end of Christmas Chronicles 1, Goldie Hawn walks out. And it's like, here we go. They're bringing together the real life universe. The Russell-averse is opening.
So, he's in other stuff, but not a ton. I mean, he's pretty young.
Yeah.
But this character is really similar to his Hunt for the Wilder People character.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, you're right.
But he's just not a villain in that movie.
Yeah.
In that movie, he's just a modern kid living in the country, and that like works. That makes the movie so funny.
Yeah.
But he feels like the same exact character in this one. Just he has powers.
Yeah.
So, I think it felt a little bit like, I don't know, whatever. I've seen him do this.
Yeah.
Because it's a very specific thing. That being said, like he's still funny though.
I'll just say it, and it can be wrong, it can be opinion. I don't like him or his performance in this movie.
Do you like his character?
I like the idea of it. I think it's done a lot better in Looper, but I do like the idea of it because this is the same plot as Looper.
We just bring up Looper all the time these days. Huh?
Yeah, I think we're ripe for a rewatch.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's okay that it's the same plot as Looper, but it's like in that you just have the kid. He's not like an angry teen who's really annoying. He's just a kid. And yeah.
But this kid has a right to be angry.
No, I know. It could have been better though.
Sounds like you just aren't on board with the casting.
Yeah, and I don't know how to describe it, and I don't want to like this kid, you're welcome on the show anytime. I mean, I don't know that it's you who took your performance in the way that I don't like it. It's probably a director or whatever,
Just didn't work for you.
It just didn't work. And I just, it's a little nails on a chalkboard for me, the whole movie.
Okay.
Which is tough because you're wanting to, you need to want to,
you want him to be redeemed.
You want him to be redeemed. And I'm just let Cable kill this guy. Then we won't have to have him in the rest of the movie. So fundamentally, I'm kind of like, not on board with the last half of the movie because I want Cable to succeed.
Okay. I do understand that maybe they could have made the kid more sympathetic.
But it's at the same time, it's like he has to match Deadpool's energy, so I understand why they took it that direction. It's like on paper, I understand. I just don't like watching it.
Sure.
So, yeah. Did you want to hit some other actors since you're over there?
We have covered Zazie Beetz on the Bullet Train episode on Patreon.
But let's bring it to the main feed.
On the main feed, she is in Atlanta. I feel like I said that weird.
Atlanta? You gave it a southern drawl.
She's also in Joker, or is she? I think you made that joke on the Bullet Train episode. She's in 9 Days, Invincible, Bullet Train, and a lot of other stuff. I don't remember her being in the movie this much, and I don't remember how funny her character was.
Yeah.
Her character was so funny.
So I remember thinking, what a waste.
Yeah.
But actually, she's fine in this.
No, I
think it works. But I remember, and we talked about it a lot in Bullet Train, she's totally wasted in that movie.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something on the cutting room floor with that, which we talked about.
There's more than that, though.
No, but let's not even get into it. They need to go to patreon.com/Micah McCaw to get that episode.
Okay.
It's a pretty wild episode, and it's a good episode. And you might be surprised what we think of the movie by how we're talking about it right now. Having said all of that, though, you and I kind of went on a tangent, and we've talked about this throughout our podcast, and I want to give it a bit of a conclusion here about people misusing the cast of Atlanta. Who are some of the most talented young actors currently living. And one is Brian Tyree Henry, who I talked a lot about in our Eternals episode, and how he's misused as an actor. I think the gist of my argument was they always hire him in movies to be like the nerd guy that knows everything. And it's very weird, and it never really works. But this year he was in a movie called Causeway, a movie that I think is okay.
Last year,
yes, you're right. And he was nominated for an Oscar. We watched it, and it was a breath of fresh air because they used him correctly.
Yeah, and it's great that someone finally casted him correctly, used him correctly, and he got recognized.
I know,
for it.
I know. It's like, yes, stop casting him as this nerdy guy.
That being said, though, he was great in Bullet Train. His character was really funny,
but he wasn't nerdy in Bullet Train. He wasn't like I want to start a podcast about conspiracy theories,
in,
like in Godzilla.
Some comedies that's like this doesn't work. So, but he's in this comedy, Bullet Train, and it's like that works.
Yeah, because he's very funny. We've watched Atlanta. He's very funny. But yeah, I just wanted to put a conclusion to that. He was used well in that movie. They gave him actual depth to explore, and you need to do that with an actor as good as him.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right.
Man, the casting, the way it's listed on here is just a nightmare.
That makes sense. Because you have all those cameos, and those are probably, some of those people are paid more, I'm sure.
Yukio is played by Shioli Kasuna. She's also in The Outsider, the Jared Leto one.
Oh, yeah, where he's like in Tokyo or something.
Yeah, Murder Mystery, Invasion, and other things. And then...
But not a million other things, as you usually say.
Just other things.
Okay.
Peter is played by Rob Delaney. He is also in Catastrophe, The Man Who Fell to Earth. He is a comedian.
He is? Okay.
I'm looking at one of his specials.
Okay.
Which is called Rob Delaney Jackie.
I've heard that name.
Me too.
No, but
we were on completely different ends of the spectrum with him.
Yeah.
First of all, we both love the Peter character.
Peter's the best character in the movie, duh.
Yeah. You were like so confused, not so confused, but in your opinion, you're like, that is a PFT casting. You got to cast Paul F. Tompkins.
Well, because what I said is like this person and character, the way he is designed. I mean, he's not in a fancy suit like Paul F. Tompkins always wears, but he looked like, when I saw the movie, I was like, that looks like Paul F. Tompkins. It looks like they are trying to make someone look like Paul F. Tompkins.
And I was on another end of the spectrum, but let me have a disclaimer because I don't want any word getting around that I wouldn't want Paul F. Tompkins in something. He's always put him in something. Always welcome.
He's probably listening.
Probably not.
No, he's not.
But
hey, Paul, if you are, we would We would do anything to have you on this podcast.
I was thinking this guy's a John Hamm type.
Yeah.
That's all.
Hey, here's what we're saying, Paul F. Tompkins, as you're listening.
Or John Hamm.
No, but here's what we're saying to you, Paul F. Tompkins. You're a good-looking guy. If we're comparing you to John Hamm.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I wished, and maybe it's that, I wish that Paul F. Tompkins was this person. But that's not to say Rob Delaney's great in this.
No, he's really good.
I mean, he's the best character.
Yeah.
I love this. There is a joke in this movie, folks, that is the funniest joke in any Deadpool movie. And it's probably the funniest joke in, like, a superhero movie.
Yeah.
One of the funniest jokes I've ever heard, where they're on the plane, they're getting ready to do this mission where they're going to stop and they're going to stop this convoy that's going and get the kid. And you cut to Peter, and he's squirting all of this, what is that called? Sunscreen on his hand, and he's wiping it on his face, and he says, I don't know about this Cable guy, but I guarantee you he hasn't killed as many people as melanoma. And that is
so
the
good.
Best joke.
Yeah.
By far. It's no question.
No question. It's the best one.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was in the trailer.
Yeah, I don't remember it being in the trailer, because I do remember laughing real hard.
Oh, okay. I feel like it was in the trailer. Lewis Tan plays Shatterstar. Shatterstar. He is also in Mortal Kombat, Shadow and Bone, Wu Assassins, About Fate, Fistful of Vengeance.
Okay.
And then we have Bill Skarsgård, who plays Zeitgeist.
You know what? We will have talked about Bill Skarsgård, because even though we haven't seen this movie and it's not out yet, by the time this episode drops, we will have watched a movie called John Wick Chapter 4, of which he is one of the stars.
Well, then I'm not going to talk about him.
Yeah.
Because you'll get your fill. Terry Crews plays Bedlam.
Uh-huh.
Do not remember Terry Crews in this, which it feels weird to not remember Terry Crews in something. He's such a memorable person.
He's a big guy.
He is in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, of course.
Uh-huh.
Idiocracy, the Expendables, the first one. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I actually can see him in the movie.
And a million other things. It's Terry Crews. We do get a very funny cameo.
Yeah.
From Brad.
Yeah, and I found out that Reynolds asked him if he would do it for what is the term? I gotta find it. Scale. Because they probably couldn't afford to have him even just show his face, and Brad Pitt agreed to do it on scale.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's so funny about it is his cameo.
Yeah.
Is
it looks like it's from Seven, though.
It does look like they're just doing a deep fake. But let's compare these. Okay, both these movies are David Leitch movies.
Yes. Oh, we're gonna have such a David Leitch time on this episode.
Between Bullet Train and this movie.
Yes.
And
wow.
there is a crazy, like, I think that they think is a crazy cameo in Bullet Train.
Yeah.
Which is Ryan Reynolds at one point, and all we see is his face when someone's referencing a guy.
Yeah, and mind you, the whole movie they've been talking about this other assassin.
And then eventually they reveal, they show the face, it's Ryan Reynolds. We're all supposed to laugh hysterically.
Yeah.
And I thought it was one of the worst cameos in a movie in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was like, even before they showed his face, I knew it was going to be Ryan Reynolds for some reason.
Yeah.
This movie, on the other hand, is one of the best. I think it is like truly one of the least expected people for their face to show up. And I think it's the fact
I laughed out of shock the first time I saw it.
Yeah, and the fact that prior to that, when everyone was parachuting down, he's the Vanisher and he's invisible, and you're just seeing a parachute. That's all you're seeing. You don't see the person. And the camera, camera like there's a shot of the camera like close up on the backpack. So I think all of that stuff just makes it so much funnier that finally they reveal that it's Brad Pitt. When you don't, I don't think anyone thought we would get to see him at all, like who it is at all. I thought that was the joke.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And when he hit, oh my gosh, you're just so right that like we have a director who's done the same trick twice, and one is like a perfect, and the other one is an absolute thud.
The other one, as we've talked about so many times, and even in the Bullet Train episode, but the Ryan Reynolds cameo in Bullet Train should have been like Danny DeVito.
That was my bit. Like someone who visually, because here's the thing with cameos that is so tough is when you see Bullet Train, your reaction is, oh, that's Ryan Reynolds. He's funny. That's why this is funny.
But wait. Not even all of that. That's an ensemble cast movie, and it's an action movie.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is an action actor.
Yeah.
So to see his face in a movie like that, and it's funny, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
You got to give me someone who is like not an action person.
Yes.
That's the joke.
Or it needs to be like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
To where it's like, what? You know, so it builds to a joke that you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas this builds to something where it's like Brad Pitt's never been in a superhero movie.
Right.
Like this is unprecedented. And then there's no lines. He's one of the biggest actors in the world. He doesn't have a line in this. He's literally not that. He's only there to show his face one time. That's it.
Yeah.
That is a good use of a cameo.
And I think it's worth comparing the two because they're both David Leitch movies.
Yeah.
And they both probably had to be having the same conversations when they were making both movies. That it's just like, yes, Ryan Reynolds is A-list actor, so famous. I'm sorry, Ryan, you're nowhere near as famous as Brad Pitt.
Oh no.
So even that shock value isn't there that you get from the Brad Pitt one.
Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds seems like he's. I think another thing is like Brad Pitt doesn't do this sort of thing.
No.
So it's like no way. Like I just felt like no way they got Brad Pitt to do this, or at least they got him to sign away the rights to his face for this shot.
I know.
And then with Ryan Reynolds, it's like, yeah, of course he'd show up to the set. Like he seems like he would go to a UCB show if we were hosting one. You know what I mean? Which is not bad. That's not a bad quality to have, but it's just like, yeah, you're friends with the director. Cool, whatever.
Yeah, right. I just saw two other cameos. One is a confirmation for me on who I thought it could be. The other one, no effing idea.
Okay.
The two dudes at the truck when Cable shows up, and the one guy's telling the other guy about how he goes to the bathroom.
Yeah.
One of the guys was like that. It's all we see is profile, and it looked like Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
And I was curious if it was or not. It is Alan Tudyk.
Okay. Yeah.
The other person.
Matt Damon.
How did you know that?
I read it after the movie came out.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. Did you? Can you tell? I couldn't.
This time around, I could, but when he turned, I could when it was a profile, but when he turned his face like toward the camera, I couldn't tell. Funny enough, but it was Alan Tudyk. I was wondering about that.
Yeah,
that one's a weird cameo to me as well, because I feel like they should have been given something funny to say or do.
Their conversation was pretty funny.
I guess
for me.
Both times it's just not a funny conversation to me. It's just kind of like exists.
Two hillbillies, one with a giant beer belly, talking about he's talking about wiping his butt like it's a course of meals.
Maybe I just didn't understand that he was talking about wiping his butt.
Yeah, he was.
Which makes me feel
And he
stupid.
was saying that your first wipe is like it's just the first course, it's the appetizer. Then you're gonna want to get the wet wipe. And blah 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 blah.
Okay. You know what? I think
Micah.
I thought it was something like sexual or something, and I just didn't want to. I wasn't there for it.
No, he was just talking about
wiping his ass.
Yeah, I think that's it. Unless I'm forgetting anyone. Oh, I did want to see who plays Juggernaut.
Oh, I can tell you that. Get out of it. Get out of it.
Tell me now.
No. Okay, fine. Ryan Reynolds does the voice of Juggernaut, and then his face is David Leitch's face.
Oh, I don't care.
Okay, so let's talk about the making of the movie. It's directed by David Leitch. So for those who don't remember, he is the director with Chad Miller on John Wick 1. Then Chad Miller will go on.
Chad Stahelski.
Oh, you're right.
Chad Miller?
Yeah.
Who is that?
I don't know. Chad Stahelski. And Chad Stahelski will go on to direct the rest of the John Wick movies.
I just have to say this because it just popped into my head. When we saw Matrix Reloaded. That's the new one, right? Okay. When yeah.
What is the Resurrections is the new one.
When we saw Matrix Resurrection, it was pretty cute when Chad Stahelski showed up on screen. Micah was like a little girl.
Yeah, I
You were
thought it was
you were
cool.
very excited to see him.
Yeah, it was cool. So we probably talked about that in our episode. You don't have to bring it up again. Yeah, so Chad Stahelski will go on to direct the rest of the John Wick movies, and then David Leitch will go on to direct Atomic Blonde, and then he directs this movie, and then he does Hobbs and Shaw, and then he does Bullet Train.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we want to talk about the David Leitch of it now or later?
So he hasn't come back to John Wick at all, other than maybe producing.
No, he hasn't. Yeah,
Not even to produce.
I don't know about
Okay.
producing. I'm sure he's a producer.
Okay.
Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I think watching those movies. I haven't seen Atomic Blonde, but I've seen the other three, and I just think number one, I think he has a very bad perception of special effects,
Yeah.
and a bad understanding of them and how to use them properly and well, because all of those movies we mentioned have at least one sequence, but more like I think probably 3 on each of them at least, that look genuinely not bad, not like, oh, that's a little wonky, but they look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's pretty bad with special effects. And it was interesting that Bullet Train and this movie just had a lot. Like, he definitely has like a certain type of story he tells, and he kind of like rewatching this movie. It's like, oh, Bullet Train is kind of just a remake of Deadpool 2 in a lot of ways, and like the structure and the jokes and everything that they do, and it's I don't know. I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think he's going to be like a big director for a long time, I guess.
Okay.
I don't think I think Chad Stahelski and him together made something magical. I don't think he's ready for A-list materials. He needs to be in like a lower budget range, I think.
I will say that I do agree with that. That his movies all have a certain look that is nice. Because I remember
when they're not CG, they
not
look
CG,
great.
But like I remember when we were watching Hobbs and Shaw, especially at the beginning of that movie, like he's just really good at colors.
Yeah.
More than anything, he just likes colorful movies.
Yeah.
And we are just inundated with not colorful movies these days.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if you're gonna watch a David Leitch movie, you at least know it's gonna be colorful.
For the first 30 minutes.
Sometimes longer.
For Hobbs and Shaw and this movie.
For Hobbs and Shaw, yeah.
But first 30 minutes looks great.
You even said in general this movie looked better than the first one.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that is a plus about him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think like he kind of reminds me of Guy Ritchie, where it's like Guy Ritchie was kind of given the keys to the kingdom, and he's also not very good with special effects. And Guy Ritchie's best when he's like down in the dirt doing like British people who suck, and gangsters. And so it's kind of like, do your thing, but maybe stay in your lane a little bit. And David Leitch, I kind of feel like he did John Wick and then he did this movie. And it's like he needs like 3 movies in between where he either learns how to make this movie, or 3 movies in between where he sticks to like ground level grunge, dirty people in the sewers. You know what I mean?
You want a Chud movie?
A Chud movie?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. That seems like too many special effects for him. But yeah. And I guess Atomic Blonde probably fits that bill, I would imagine.
I don't know. Haven't seen it.
Like I doubt that there's a huge special effects sequence in that movie.
Okay.
And for the most part, I do think he pulls this off, but he just has no sense of what to do with special effects.
No, this movie gets off the rails fast with special effects.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I think it's worth mentioning that Hobbs and Shaw has to be in contention for like top 5 worst movies made in that decade.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that too much, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So, this movie is again written by Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Ryan Reynolds has a credit as well. The cinematography is Jonathan Sala, who we've talked about because of John Wick 1, and he teams up with Leitch. The music is by Taylor Bates. We've talked about him. Oh, Tyler Bates. Taylor Bates is someone who lives in Oregon. Well, maybe Tyler does too. I don't know. Does he?
I don't know.
The movie comes out May 18th, 2018 on a $110 million budget. That's quite a bit more than the first movie. Domestically, the movie makes $318 million, which is domestically lower than Deadpool 1.
Okay.
But worldwide, it makes $734, which makes it the highest grossing X-Men movie.
Okay.
So this beats out all other X-Men movies. And both the Deadpools are like a kind of a wide margin higher than like the rest of the X-Men movies, which is kind of wild.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. In 2016, the first movie comes out in February 2016, and then Tim Miller, the director of that movie, April, he's like, yeah, I'm directing this next one. And then by October of 2016, he leaves the project over creative differences.
Right.
And it is reported, well, first of all, Ryan Reynolds negotiates a lot more creative control, and he gets casting approval on Deadpool 2.
Wow.
And then the media starts talking about how Miller and Reynolds are have a pretty bad contentious relationship.
Oh, so it's them that were. I always thought that Ryan was fighting for him.
Well, we're gonna get to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't jump on the peach before it's ripe, James.
What?
Just made it up on the spot. Hopefully it works. And then there's a thing that kind of comes out where he was determined to hire Kyle Chandler as Cable, who is the dad in Friday Night Lights, or the coach in Friday Night Lights, I think. And he's in Wolf of Wall Street.
That guy is Cable?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
the guy the dad from Super 8. That guy's America's dad.
Yeah, and also, I love Josh Brolin. I think he's great in this movie. I do think Kyle Chandler would be much more interesting.
That would be interesting.
Because Josh Brolin's a little on the nose. But he's not bad. He is good in this.
Yeah.
No shade there. But so Miller's like, yes, I have to have Kyle Chandler. And Reynolds is like, no, we're not having him on this movie. So that's something that they're saying is happening. And then it's reported that Reynolds wants to keep it raunchy and low and like the first movie in feeling.
Yeah.
And everyone's saying, but Miller wants to make it really stylized and crazy. And make it bigger and better. Now, all of this apparently is false.
Okay.
But this is reported, and this is what I was hearing, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But Mr. Tim Miller has this to say for himself. He said, I didn't want to make some stylized movie that was 3 times the budget. If you read the internet, who cares really? But for those of you who do, I wanted to make the same kind of movie that we made before because I think that's the right movie to make for the character. So don't believe what you read on the internet. I wanted to do the same thing. Kyle Chandler was not going to be Cable. All this stuff that I read kind of kills me. But he has kind of talked about some differences in his movie.
Okay.
And I don't know if I would have liked this better. It's a completely different movie.
Okay.
But Vanessa, for one, has a much bigger character arc.
Yeah.
Which I do like that.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest issues with this movie.
Yeah. But she becomes her, I guess, iconic character, Copycat, in the movie. I don't know who that character is. Never read a comic with it. But I guess she's a character. And then Miller also got permission to have the Thing in this movie. So the Fantastic Four's The Thing was going to fight the Juggernaut in this movie.
What?
Which is kind of wild.
And we didn't get it?
Yeah.
I wanted to see that. Colossus looked so bad in this movie.
Yeah, I don't.
He looked worse.
He
in the
looked
first
worse
one.
in this one, and I read how they kind of redesigned it to make him look better, and I was like,
no.
Well,
maybe when he's standing there and not doing anything, he looks better.
Yeah.
But when he's talking, it is what year are we watching? What year is this?
And when he walked, especially his walking movements were very strange.
It's like they couldn't figure out the physics. I mean, because he's completely made of steel.
Yeah.
But he's also a giant.
Yeah.
So it is how would he walk? They didn't figure it out.
Well, and that's another thing to remember is that he, Tim Miller, was a special effects guy, and that's why Colossus, he still pretty much works in that movie because he was someone who was like thought of it that way because he makes special effects himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks of things in terms of that. Whereas David Leitch thinks of them in action, which is great because he can make great action sequences.
Mm-hmm.
But then he goes, "Oh, I have access to CGI. Now I can up the ante." And it's like, no, be like your friend Chad Stahelski and don't up the ante.
Mm-hmm.
It's better that way.
Up the ante by human limitation.
Oh my gosh, you said it first. So then David Leitch comes on to make the movie. Tim Miller's gone. He wishes everyone well. And then Tim Miller will go on to make Terminator Dark Fate, a movie that rocks.
Oh!
So
You said that in the last episode, and I already forgot.
yeah. They had meetings with Brad Pitt for Cable, and they also had meetings with Aaron Taylor Johnson for Cable.
Very different.
Now, what do those two people have in common with the director of this movie?
They're both in the next movie of his.
They're all in Bullet Train.
Yeah.
Which is not the next, but
yeah.
I'm sure that kind of kept them in Tim Miller's head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, David Leitch's head for this. And so there's much more, Jordan. I hope you're tracking with me. Production for Dark Phoenix, the next movie we're going to cover, was happening at the same time as this movie. And Simon Kinberg, the director of Dark Phoenix, directed the cast in the mansion in the one scene.
Okay.
Now, the reason I'm bringing that up, he was just like around and did it. This isn't a big deal.
Because he needed to tell people how to stand in a room?
No. I think it's like, oh, I'm there. Let me just be there. And they're like, oh, why don't you direct? I think it's totally like a...
He directed that scene?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah,
the scene.
I think it's like a Steven Spielberg showing up on the set of Wolf of Wall Street.
Steve, do you have any notes about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like totally fine, whatever. What I'm saying, though, and what should alert you to this, is Dark Phoenix came out in 2021. This movie came out in 2018.
Uh-oh.
And they were being filmed at the same time.
Okay.
Dark Phoenix is going to have a lot of production problems that we're going to be talking about because this movie, Dark Phoenix, should have come out before the pandemic even happened.
Yeah.
And it kept getting pushed and reshoots and reshoots
did come
and
out
reshoots.
Before the pandemic.
No, wait, did it?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, if I'm wrong, then I suck.
I'll look it up.
Oh, okay. She's looking it up now. I'm grabbing the white wine that I brought with me to recording, and I am giving it a little swirl.
2019.
Oh. So I'm wrong.
I guess we can find the release date.
No, it was like June, I think.
Well, 2019, it wasn't. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
So I was wrong, but it is still
June 7th.
It is still a little nuts. I remember there is still a lot of production issues. So
okay, I'll hold you that.
And that is a year and a half after, or that's a little over a year after this. So okay. Anyway, I guess I was kind of wrong on that, and I'll just have to eat it. But we'll talk about it next week. One of the stunt women for Domino was killed during this movie.
Whoa, really?
And this is one of those things that sucks because the veteran stunt double for there was a veteran stunt double there, Melissa Stubbs, and she was available and willing to do the stunt. But the inexperienced Harris, who is the woman who died, was preferred due to her skin color being a match for Zazie Beetz. This decision was criticized by multiple stunt professionals, and many noting that Harris's experiences racing motorcycles did not necessarily qualify her as an able stunt performer.
Wow.
Now, on top of that, so that's bad enough.
Yeah.
But on top of that, they didn't have enough time to make a helmet to put under the wig that she would wear.
What? So she was riding a motorcycle without a helmet?
Yeah.
And
she died.
Insurance didn't come down on them or not cover anything? Like that just seems and you do not have insurance if your stunt people do not wear helmets.
Yeah.
And that is easily proven that a person was not wearing a helmet.
I know.
That is so ridiculous.
I know.
That's so sad.
It's weird. It made me think I don't want to put a judgment on the director because, it's not his job to coordinate the stunts. That's the stunt coordinator's job.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't know the situation, intimately. But it's the kind of thing where I just kind of feel like if I directed a movie and that happened, I'd be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like someone died on my set.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of weird to me that people just keep on doing it. But I've also never been in that situation where I've caused someone's death. So, I don't know how I would react.
Yeah.
It'd be like if an avalanche came down. Would I grab my phone or would I grab my kids? There is a cut scene where Deadpool kills baby Hitler.
Okay.
They test screened it, and everyone was like, it just made them uncomfortable.
Just too much. Too
Yeah.
much.
But I did find out that I guess there's an SNL sketch that I want to look up where people keep coming back, time traveling to kill baby Hitler, and the mom's like, why do all these people keep coming here? Which seems like a funny bit.
How old is it?
I think at the time of Deadpool's release, it was only a couple years old.
Okay.
It's like a modern cast,
Okay.
So we should look that up. They shot extra stuff with X-Force, so during the marketing, they could use scenes that weren't in the movie.
There you go. That's
Love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Junkie XL didn't return for the score, obviously, because he's not the one who did the score, but he was like, I guess Miller was like the whole reason he did the project.
Oh, okay.
He was like the driving force, and he was like, okay, I don't want to do it. The score earned a parental warning, which is the first time that's ever happened.
Because of that one song.
Yep.
That was very funny. I don't think I noticed it the first time.
Oh, I definitely did, yeah.
Okay.
Celine Dion is the performer of the title track, Ashes.
Okay.
And then one thing that I had forgotten about is one of the promos for this movie was Deadpool as Bob Ross, which was very funny. One of the benefits of these movies is they're able to do these promos that don't even involve footage from the movie, where he can do stupid stuff, and it's good enough for you to go see the movie.
Yep.
Now, did you ever hear about Once Upon a Deadpool that happened?
No.
So later this year, they recut the movie to PG-13 and called it Once Upon a Deadpool and put it in theaters.
Why? To make more money?
They wanted to try it out, but they had a pretty good idea that they did. They got Fred Savage, the kid from Princess Diaries, and it's Deadpool telling him the story of Deadpool 2, and he's in bed as an adult man, Fred Savage. And that is pretty freaking great.
Pretty undeniable.
And I actually wanted to see it, but I was like, I dislike, by the time it came out later that year during Christmas, I was like, I dislike Deadpool 2 so much. I'd convinced myself that I was like, I don't want to see it again. But that allows for lots of extra jokes, and that seems very Deadpool-y.
Mm-hmm.
So if they did that every time, I'd be like, yeah, that's so smart.
Yeah.
And then finally, before this was released, they had started working on an X-Force movie. So they would do an X-Force movie for something bigger, and then Deadpool 3 for something to remain small.
Okay.
And then in 2018, Reynolds says they might not make a Deadpool 3 as they're shifting their focus to X-Force. Now in 2017, we're hearing the rumblings of the Disney acquisition, and Bob Iger is saying, guys, don't worry, Deadpool's fine. If we make more Deadpool, they will be rated R. No worries there. And then, so all of that is happening. In 2021, Reynolds revealed that the plot of the film, now they've confirmed Deadpool 3, but the plot of the film would have, no, they hadn't confirmed it because it's saying Reynolds said the plot would have involved Deadpool and Wolverine going on a road trip in the style of the film Rashomon, which that does sound pretty great.
I don't know what that movie is, but is it a bro movie?
No, I actually don't know what that has to do with No, I'm going to tell you about it. Don't look at your phone. I don't know what that has to do with a road trip, but Rashomon is an Akira Kurosawa movie.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's amazing. But it's they've all witnessed it's all these different people have witnessed a crime, and they all tell the crime from their perspective. So it's just a movie about everyone has a different perspective.
And where can I watch that?
I'm sure it's on something, and I'd love to rewatch it.
That sounds awesome.
So good. But yeah, we'll go over all the Deadpool 3 production when that movie comes out, and we cover it. And also they did plan on shooting a scene where Chris Evans was the Human Torch and tried out for X-Force, which would have been so funny.
Mm-hmm.
But they never got to even film it
to
that part. So
I would have loved that.
Those are my notes for the movie.
Okay.
So now what?
We talk about the movie.
What?
Yeah, that's the time.
I've talked so much. Do you think you can kick us off here with the dead Logan toy and all that stuff?
Yeah. So this movie starts with a dead Logan toy to remind us of the end of Logan. I wonder if they sell that toy.
Maybe.
And,
It's a music box too.
Yeah, it's a music box, and I like it. And is this when he's in the apartment? We start off right here. Okay, so he is in his apartment.
When he's saying like Logan really upped the ante. They copied us on the rated R thing, and then they kill themselves.
And then they killed him. Then he is like, well, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to kill myself. And he's going around the apartment, turns on all the gas burners. You're not really sure what's happening. It's Deadpool. Is this even happening yet?
Uh-huh.
He's smoking a cigarette, lays down on a ton of barrels of gasoline.
Yeah.
And flicks a cigarette in, ignites, and explodes himself.
Yeah. And
he tells us he's going to catch us up with how we got here.
Right.
Classic Deadpool style, just like the first movie. So we go back to, he catches us up with, since Deadpool 1, he is a contract guy.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy that kills bad guys. He is the Dexter of superheroes. Surprised they didn't throw that kind of joke in.
Oh my gosh.
So he's traveling around the world, taking out organized crime bosses and other people. He's in Hong Kong. He is in, I'm forgetting the other ones, but then he goes to Biloxi,
Mississippi.
which I didn't know where that was, so we looked it up, found out it was in Mississippi. I was like, okay, that feels like a joke.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because we have so many of these movies. We've talked about it in, I think especially in Days of Future Past, I think, where it's like every single scene is like France, Germany, America. And it's like, shut up.
Yeah.
And for them to point out Biloxi and not tell us where it's at, because I'm like, I don't know, is that Russia? Is that I was thinking like
weird name.
Ukraine maybe? Where's a place where they have X's? And then when I wrote Biloxi, Mississippi popped up. And because at the time I wasn't even looking at the types of people that were there, because I think it's like a bunch of like it's like a motorcycle gang
it's a strip
bar.
club, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and all the locations, scenes are specific and stylized and cliche in their own way.
And it is like ramped up violence.
Yeah.
Tarantino-esque violence.
Yeah.
And it's and this is where I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And this is David Leitch doing his thing.
Yeah.
Because these are like well choreographed scenes and they're pretty intense and cool. And it's all to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, which how can you lose when you put that song on there?
A lot of good drops in this movie.
Oh yeah, this has got a great soundtrack.
So then he takes us to this warehouse where all these dudes are, henchmen, more organized crime things he's tasked with taking down. And he's picking off everyone. Like you said, it's very violent.
Mm-hmm.
And the one dude he's trying to gets away in a panic room, so he can't finish his job. But it's his anniversary with Vanessa, so job done enough.
Yeah.
And he goes home, and they're celebrating their anniversary, and they're gonna start trying to have kids.
Yeah.
That's their big thing. They're watching Yentl.
Yes.
And I don't remember them riffing on that song that she's singing sounds like the Snowman song from Frozen. And that was so funny.
Yeah.
I think because at the time still have not seen Frozen. And I think even at the time I still hated Frozen so much because it was so like people couldn't stop talking about it that I was like, I don't care about that joke. Since then, it's like that's a really funny joke.
Yeah, no, it was I like when movies can like point out something like that where it's like, "Oh, so we just all accepted that they stole this melody and we were fine with it." In another famous musical.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
And we'll just keep moving forward. Got it.
Apparently, the one thing there was some sort of joke about Disney, and I think it had to do with Disney being acquired that they had to cut from the movie.
Well, he brings up a lot of times throughout the movie, especially X-Men related things, where he is constantly complaining how they can still only get Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Yeah.
Because
do you want a prize for saying her name?
I remember this time, but that they the first like he is saying the word studio. I don't know if he uses the word movie, but he's basically saying like our movie did so well they can't even give us throw in a mainstream X-Men character. They can't even do that, and that's when we get that little cameo.
Yeah,
in the other room.
With like all of the cast of the young X-Men.
Yeah.
To which you were like, that doesn't make sense. They'd be older now and stuff. And I was like, oh, you're right. But it doesn't really matter. It's Deadpool.
No, it doesn't.
It's a funny bit.
Now that I've seen everything,
except for 2, we got 2 to go, Jordan.
I question things. Anyway, celebrating their anniversary, and his job wasn't finished, and the henchmen find him, and he starts killing them off again in their apartment. Vanessa's hiding. This was very inventive.
Yeah.
He grabs his steak knives in the thing that you put them in. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, the knife set.
The knife set. And just the way he uses it throughout that scene is very inventive.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then when she's like, I'm okay. And then he goes, thank goodness I would have had to use the cream cheese spreader or whatever. Yeah. And then he does have to use it, which results in, I almost said Natasha, but Vanessa getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets upset.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about it?
I think it's so lame that they just kill her off. I think it's just so dumb. I think that's weak writing.
Yeah.
We don't need the whole movie to be pinned on this happening. It's just, yeah, fine. Kill off your female main character.
That's how it feels.
Just do it, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we get one other one, but we
don't
have
time.
Any pathos with Domino, you know.
No.
It's not even that I care that much about Vanessa, but
it's just that she's in the last movie. She's also the what is it called? Damsel in distress. She's in the last movie more, but then she's also just kidnapped to get Deadpool to do something.
Oh,
so
yeah.
even in that movie, it's pretty we've seen. It was pretty cliche, her character.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's oh cool, we get a sequel. We'll get to see her do more. They can develop her. Apparently, she is a real comic book character that has some kind of alter ego.
Yeah,
and they're just gonna kill her instead of giving it to us.
Yeah, and I know we want to hit that family message. He tells us, hey, this is actually a family movie. Which I do like that premise where it's the first one's a love story. This is a family movie. I hope in the next movie, because they did get Logan. Wolverine. They'll probably be this is a road trip buddy comedy, and it'll probably be he'll be saying that while he's disemboweling somebody or something like that. But yeah, it seems like a waste. It does give him good motivation, and revenge is fun, but
that's it's just by week. It's just weak because there's so many that it's become a stereotype.
Yeah.
You kill his love interest so that he can do all of these things, blah, blah, blah. And it's why not see what kind of story you would have if you didn't have to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe they just can't have kids. Maybe he's sterile. He does have cancer.
Yeah, which is what I was wondering.
Actually, cancer wouldn't make you sterile.
No, but he's been pumped full of things that are
that's
not good
what
for
I'm
a
thinking
person.
of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's another way to do it.
There is.
It's just that's the easiest way to do it.
Which it's just lame because it's I challenge you to be better at that. People who are being paid to do this.
Yeah.
But that happens. She
then
dies.
We have the title credit,
which is James Bond.
James Bond themed, directed by one of the guys who killed John Wick's dog. I love this.
Yeah.
I hope. This is what Deadpool can do. You know what I mean? This is when it is operating at its highest, when it's doing stupid stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I hope that they keep that sort of thing up. I think they should have an animated sequence in one of these movies, right? A long animated sequence.
Sure.
That would be a fun thing to do. Yeah, and so now we're all caught up. We're at the X Mansion.
He blows himself up. Colossus comes in, picks up his body, takes him to the youngster school, and rehabilitates him.
Yeah. And there's funny stuff. We don't need to go through every
Colossus
joke.
really wants
but
him to be an X-Men, and Deadpool, who has nothing left, but has that vision
yeah,
with Vanessa, or that near-death experience where he's like, okay, well, I got to figure out a family thing. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll try and be an X-Men.
yeah. And I do really like how it feels like even more so in this movie, they go to the mansion quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and they really film it like so that it looks really empty. And it's pretty, that is pretty funny.
Because it's a school, but it's a bustling school.
Yeah,
and
that's how
no
we've
one
always
in
seen it,
sight.
and there's just nobody. And so then they go to the mutant recovery center,
Yeah.
and this is where we're introduced to.
So what does
the
that
kid.
mean? A mutant recovery center?
Well, I
we
think
know the twisted things that are happening behind closed doors, but is this like for orphans who are mutants?
yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're trying to like get them to stop using their powers. Pretty cool idea. It is fun.
Interesting.
It is fun that in both of these movies they're still playing with the X-Men
World.
ideas,
Yeah.
and stuff. They're not just like, oh, Deadpool talks. That's funny.
Yeah.
They're still like, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And I mean, the plot is decent. It is the plot of Looper, but it's decent. We could probably find another movie that's older than Looper that's the same plot too, so it's okay.
No, Looper's wholly original unto itself.
Yeah, so tell me about the kid, Jordan.
Fire Fist. He is wreaking havoc outside the school. Police are swarmed, but there's nothing they can do. Come in the X-Men, comprised of those 3 people. Deadpool is a trainee.
Yeah.
And
he has a training jersey on, which is funny.
Yeah. I do find it funny that, and this isn't a slam or
oh my gosh
at all or
what are you
anything,
about to say?
but like he's this trainee, and he's a superhero. He doesn't kill. He diffuses the situation. Why is he allowed to bring guns?
yeah.
Especially when it's a child.
Yeah.
But he's like immediately like getting ready to use his guns and everything, and Colossus is trying to like remind him don't do anything. And he's talking to the kid. The kid is having a moment. He's pissed.
Yeah.
But he does diffuse the situation. Well, he hits the kid with the butt of his sword.
Yeah.
And then he starts picking up on like, oh, this kid's being abused here.
Yeah.
And he kills one of the orderlies, like,
yeah,
immediately.
He calls him someone. Keep talking, but
he calls him. Yeah, but I did like that before that he started going off about at the end of the last movie, Colossus was saying 4 or 5 moments.
Yeah.
Every hero gets 4 or 5 moments to actually be a hero. And so Deadpool is using that message in this instance, but he's not using it correctly. And he uses it to like justify him killing that man.
Yeah.
Which was very funny.
He calls him Jared Kushner, who is the former senior advisor to the 45th president of the United States, who, not to be mean, is a very haunting-looking person. And he was involved in, the 45th president, so he's not the best person in the world.
Okay. A very haunting-looking person.
Yeah, it's a little frightening.
What's his name?
Jared Kushner. Yeah. So we're now taking this.
Like you're actually like shaken by this person.
I mean, you are, right? Do you see it? Do you see him?
Huh. That's a face you can't trust. Dead on though with the joke.
I know. Yeah. So he kills that guy. He kills the Jared Kushner looking guy, and then they go to mutant prison. Their powers are deactivated.
And I love that when their powers are deactivated, Deadpool's cancer is like rampant.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
never
That's
gone.
great.
His cancer's never gone.
It's just always at bay.
But now he doesn't have his
just like the Chesapeake.
He doesn't have his mutant ability to keep like regenerating and healing himself from it.
Yeah. So
love that.
Yeah. And then we are introduced to Cable, and we see this like time traveling, scary looking guy. Now, as someone who hasn't read anything with Cable. Well, I have now, but before this came out, I had no idea that he's like a good guy. So the twist of him helping at the end was actually a twist to me.
Okay.
Whereas
So I mean, same. I don't know.
Sometimes I wonder with some of these characters, like, what's the point of making them start bad? You know,
I was going to ask what you thought about that as someone who reads comics.
Yeah, but I do think they write his story well, and it's a good idea. And the thing that this movie actually falls into, though, is it does the romantic comedy thing, where he shows up and he doesn't tell anyone why he's doing what he's doing, and they probably could have talked it through. Now,
who could it have he had talked it through with?
Well, yeah, I guess when he's fighting Deadpool a second time, he could be like, do you know who? He doesn't even say anything like, do you know who this kid is or anything like that. I guess
it would be Deadpool that he would need to tell, but he can't do it at the beginning.
No, because
that wouldn't make sense.
I do think there is an argument to be made for the way he's acting and the way he's doing this. He is not talking to anybody. Mm-hmm. I'm not asking questions. I'm just finding this kid and killing him. I don't care. But it does struggle a little, especially, it takes until the last like half hour of the movie for us to find out why he's even doing it. I don't know. I think there could have been something else there.
Yeah.
Story-wise. But yeah, then he goes to the prison. They have a big fight.
I do think it's funny that throughout the time in prison, the kid is just trying to figure out, like, I got to find the biggest guy in here and beat him up.
Yeah.
Make him my B. And he makes a shank out of a pen that he has up his butt. That's like a running joke throughout the movie. I think that stuff's funny.
Yeah. I don't, but I don't think it's not funny. It just isn't funny to me.
Yeah.
But I understand that it's funny.
So yeah, Cable shows up, starts trying to go after the kid. Deadpool's trying to protect him. Action ensues.
And this is when I wrote this note. So I think this is when I officially drop off the movie.
Yeah.
Because I wrote the movie went Hollywood. Is how it feels when it gets to this point.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. I like bombastic, but it felt like, we're like no longer in the realm of the first movie. Now things are just like really amped up, really crazy, convoluted story. Which is, the convoluted is not bad. These are not bad things, but I think they do hurt Deadpool.
I mean, if we're going to compare it to other X-Men movie, this continues to be one of the more streamlined stories out of the whole franchise.
Well, that is very true.
So, I don't know. I don't think it's convoluted if I can compare, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this scene, I like his gun. I think it's cool. But what's funny with it being David Leitch and everything, I actually think the action is just okay in this movie.
It never gets as good as the intro of him killing everybody.
No, it doesn't.
But there are two great jokes in this.
What?
When he says, "You're so dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?" That's funny.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is when he says, "I have 2 questions for you."
He has 3 questions.
3 questions. I don't remember them all, but one of them is dubstep still a thing? And then he says, dubstep is for lamos. He doesn't say that, though. And then he goes, "I love dubstep." And then they fight and dubstep plays.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's a good bit.
Yeah.
That's an episode of Great Bits.
Okay.
But yeah, so then he's pretty handily defeated. And
well, him and Deadpool are thrown out of the prison by their fighting.
That's right, yeah.
And
he's able to see who I wanted to call this time Monica, but Vanessa.
What's wrong with you?
I think I got a little bit of Monica in my mind.
You know that I loved that song as a kid? Because for some reason that's in the Stuart Little soundtrack.
That makes sense.
And I can't remember when. I feel like it might even have been the credits of the movie. But man, I loved that song so much. And I did not know what it was about, even though he's just naming all these ladies' names.
Yeah.
I loved that song.
I think whenever I hear that song, I am transported to the Roller Odyssey rink. and
Did
I
they
could
play that
just
song?
I can just see myself not skating because I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
I couldn't roller skate.
Can you still not roller skate?
No,
What do you?
I can't do it.
Okay, just hold on to the song. What
And-
are you talking about? You've tried,
Yeah, ice skating and roller skating, I can't do it.
but roller skating is not hard.
I can't do it.
I did not know this about you. Been married to you for 5 years.
I'm a little scared to do it.
Have you always been embarrassed to tell me?
No, I thought I had told you, but
So the day that the skating rink closed, you were probably so thankful. You're probably relieved.
Yeah. But it was always like, oh no, we're going there, and I'd have to like go around the sides and stuff at gold card outings and stuff.
What? What kind of skates did you do?
I'd have to do the fours.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Dylan and Jake would grab me and throw me into walls.
Well, there's always a kid that's going to happen to.
Yeah.
So you were the kid.
I was the kid, and that made me that I think that stunted my learning of how to do it because I'd never really learned how to skate, and then it was like when I try to go out there, I'm thrown against walls, and I'm scared, so I never learned how.
Sorry, I will say about ice skating. I remember ice skating, like loving ice skating as a kid so much, and then like as a teenager or something, me and my friends were like, guys, we should go ice skating. We haven't been since we were like kids, and it was so fun. This will be so fun, and it was so hard.
Yeah.
What happened? It probably was just
it
as
was
hard.
never easy for me, so I don't know.
It probably was just as hard when I was a kid too, but I just didn't care and still had fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was hard.
I always had like some of the most intense catharsis ever in any movie ever is in Rocky, and it still is to this day because he takes Adrian on a date to the ice rink.
He's not wearing skates.
And he just runs around on his tennis shoes, and every time I watch it, I'm like, why can't I just do that? Why can't I just run around on the ice skates and be like Rocky?
But yeah. I don't think he looked cool. I think that was kind of like he was trying to be cool, but he wasn't being cool.
He's kind of cool in that scene.
Okay.
He's charming.
Sure, I'll give you charming.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me on skating.
So what about the song?
I'm just transported to there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the song's a little triggering for you. Bad times.
I guess. And the other thing is, I remember anytime we'd have, for those who don't know, at the school we went to, gold card outings were like, oh, you behaved well, like it's the end of
the quarter
semester or whatever, so we're gonna go out on a trip, on a gold card outing. So we would go, and whenever it was that or the road,
you're telling me Dylan had a gold card and got to go to gold card outings?
Come on, we knew how to work the system.
Oh.
There was the rink, which is the ice skating rink locally. And anytime it was those two places, I was always like, I would always just try and, the whole time I'm just trying to figure out like,
how can I lose my gold card?
No, like Dustin just came off the ice. Like I'll go talk to him for a little while, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna go back out there, and it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like I think I'm gonna like I wanted to go look at something over here, and then it's like, oh, there's Anna. Okay, cool. I'll talk to her, and it was just like, how can I?
So they were never fun for you.
They were fun,
but not as fun as it should have been in theory.
It was fun being around friends. The activity was not fun.
Yeah. Sorry to hear it.
And it's kind of fun to talk about. I think it makes for good podcasting. But I have to say, I'm feeling a little red in the cheeks. I'm a little embarrassed, and now everyone's gonna know. So, but it's good. It's good to let it out there. You know.
Yeah. I'm glad to finally know because. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of our listeners know, but anyone who doesn't, Micah and I we went to school together from pre-K through high school. But we were not friends we were friends in 4th grade. And then other than that, we were not friends the entire time. So we have, since getting together and being married, have been able to share all these stories about our experiences in high school.
There's not much left to tell.
No.
You know,
well, apparently there was.
Well, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is a big treat because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because our experiences were so different because we ran in different circles.
We certainly did. And, you know, this is another thing. I've always been someone who I think for the most part, I'm like someone who can learn from others' mistakes. And also, like, I love movies so much. Like, I feel like I can experience life through movies instead of those experiences on my own. So if I watch, like, a movie about an ice skate rinker?
Ice skater.
Ice skater. That's as good to me as going out and ice skating. That's like, I'll watch I, Tonya, and I'll get the catharsis someone will get while
You'll get the
being on the
catharsis
ice.
of being a wonderful figure skater, and also the catharsis of blowing out someone's knee.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's another reason I like movies so much is I can kind of like escape to those worlds and be those people.
But the movies don't make you want to like go somewhere and do something ever.
No, they definitely do. They definitely do. And there's definitely experiences that I find much better. But I guess the things that I like to do, or things that seem like within my wheelhouse, or maybe they stretch a little bit. It's like, ooh, yeah, now I want to go do that thing, and then it's more satisfying to do it in real life. But something that like I'm scared to do, it's like that's good enough to see someone else do it.
I get that. Yeah,
that's fine with me.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, do you want to go to the rink and watch people? It's like, no, it wasn't shot by Bill Pope. Why would I go do that? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was kind of a window into my soul.
Yeah.
So please just give us 5 stars. Just give us 5 stars and say sorry, Micah, because you know, we need the ratings and I need the support. Yeah. So now it's the tryouts for X-Force.
Okay.
Tell me all about it.
Him and
you're running this up, you know.
Him and TJ Miller. TJ Miller's back.
Yeah.
They're interviewing people, like you just said, for the X-Force. It's the crew that Deadpool's going to put together to go get the kid and protect the kid from Cable. And we get the lineup that we talked about previously. We get Zeitgeist, Bedlam, Shatterstar, Domino, Vanisher. No, I was going to get it.
Oh.
And Peter.
Wow, you got all of them. I wrote them all down.
I can't believe I remembered it all.
I only wrote Terry Crews, Bill Skarsgård, Vanisher, Shatterstar, Domino, and Peter.
I wish that we had seen more of Shatterstar. But I also understand because it was a joke.
Yeah.
But like when we were introduced to him, it was like, "What's your thing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not from here.
I'm from Mojo World.
And we're just better than you at everything."
Yeah.
And it's like, I need what do you mean by that? What is that?
I read Patrick Willems' letterboxd on this movie, and he said a character says Mojo World, so this is automatically better than every other X-Men movie.
And I think at first it's like he says this stuff, and it's like, oh, so he's just an idiot. But then later on, when he dies, he's all green goo. So he actually was an alien.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see a little bit more.
So then this is a great bit. Yeah. This is hilarious. They go to dive. They're gonna Mission Impossible it here.
But prior to that, they're all in the helicopter waiting to jump, and everyone's talking about this high wind advisory.
Which is, I mean, for superheroes to die because of a high wind advisory is hilarious. And so Terry Crews or Deadpool lands first after hitting a billboard. And then he sees that people, getting like tossed around. They don't look like things are going to go well. Also, the effects are pretty bad. But then Terry Crews lands. He immediately gets hit by a bus. Okay, that's funny.
People
and it's like
performing CPR on him like he's dead.
He's dead. And then after that, Shatterstar flies into a helicopter whose blades are running. And Deadpool's like, left, no, left, go turn left.
No, stage left, you idiot.
And then Vanisher lands on a telephone wire, gets electrocuted, and that's when we see that it is Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
And then Skarsgård lands in a wood chipper.
But Peter's trying to help him. Peter
lands fine.
Safely.
Yeah.
But he's trying to help Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård barfs on him, and his barf is acidic and like acid. Well, it's acid.
Yeah, and it kills Peter. Now, I know at the end of the movie they correct this mistake. But I will say, even at the time of the theater, I think that the joke is funnier if all these people with powers got murdered and died, and then Peter's like, wow, I survived. And then they go, then he's there for the entire chase, and he keeps on almost dying. And I know that's Domino's thing, but you have to rewrite it because all of Domino's stuff looks like some of the worst CG I've ever seen in my life. So rewrite this scene, and Peter's along the whole time finishes the entire thing, and it's always these near misses. And then they get to the end, and they're like, I can't believe you made it. And he goes, yeah, that was a little rich for my blood. I think I'm going to go back to insurance. And then he's never seen from again.
Yeah.
I think that's way funnier.
Yeah.
And it would allow for like joke after joke for that whole sequence.
Yeah. Or even if you, I think Domino is so funny in her stuff, like it with all of her stuff.
Well, you were charmed by
I don't
Domino.
I don't want to get rid of it because it just was funnier than I remember it being. That Peter lands just right there. And that's enough for him.
That works too.
He conquered his fear. He jumped out of a plane.
He's just like, I just peed my pants. I gotta go buy a new pair of pants.
Yeah, that would be funny too.
But
yeah, Domino is the only one who survives. Her superpower is she's lucky.
Yeah.
And throughout the movie, we see that being demonstrated. And the thing that I love about it is you can't actually like prove that this is a superpower, I guess. But the fact that later on in the movie, when they get to the school again where the kid was, she's like, oh, I was raised here. And it's like, oh, so like this is a true power that you have.
And it is funny that Deadpool does say like, what like lazy writer from Marvel in the 90s came up with this stupid thing on a like late deadline or something like that. I'm like, I've read many an issue where the powers you're like, that's what you came up with?
Yeah.
Were you like partying that weekend or something? No, these are writers from Marvel. They weren't partying. They were probably just trying to make way too many comics at once.
Yeah.
And that's all they could come up with. Yeah, so Domino's powers are showcased. And I wrote this note. If you can't make it look good, you have to come up with something better.
Yeah, true.
Because her thing, and Deadpool says this, but he's saying it as a joke. He's over the earpiece and he says, your powers aren't even cinematic. And then we're getting this big shots of big stuff happening. And I'm like, Deadpool's right. This looks terrible. Doesn't look like cinema, my friend.
Just spend more time on it.
Yeah, or do something else.
Yeah.
You know, that is like I don't want to invoke James Cameron every time we cover an episode, but it's like he waits to make these movies until and works on them for so long. Partly he has the budget to do it and he can change the deadlines and all that stuff. But it's like he waits until he can make it look good.
Micah, the fact that you're comparing a Deadpool movie to James Cameron is already unfair.
No, I know that. But there are other directors, I just can't think of them right now, where it's like, let's work within what we were given.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's an example. Both of his movies, Dan Trachtenberg, I think it's Dan Trachtenberg, the director of Prey and 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think. I might be getting him confused with a different director. No, that's him. Now, I actually didn't like Prey, even though people really love that movie. And I do think there's some wonky effects, but he's definitely working within like the constraints of that project and using it to its fullest extent. And it's like, yeah, I think he could have gone a little bit more, but that's okay. And same thing with 10 Cloverfield Lane. You know, working within the constraints. Just don't, you know, you got a $110 million budget. Don't waste it on this sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We're going to pack it up. Well, now the Juggernaut comes out.
Okay.
And he looks like
garbage.
He looks like the scene of Domino had a baby with itself, and that baby is Juggernaut.
He makes Colossus look good, and Colossus looks really bad in this movie.
It's not good to look at.
No.
And I don't know why they wouldn't make him red. If you're going that far, just make him red like the comics.
Yeah.
And so Kid has made friends with Juggernaut, the biggest guy in the prison.
Yeah, so so Cable shows up, there's a fight scene with Cable, but then they stop him and Juggernaut rips Deadpool in half and leaves him there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, everything, like no hope.
Yeah.
That's our low point of the movie. Deadpool goes to the blind owl is her name, and to grow his legs back.
Yeah.
And that's when people show up and are like, we gotta still, fight for this and stuff, which includes TJ, Dopinder, and Domino.
Yeah.
Um,
And it is funny that TJ says something to the effect of like, we got to figure out what you guys are going to do while I stay home.
that is funny. I did not care for as much about like his shtick was not as funny to me this movie, where he's explaining something in 5 different ways.
Yeah.
And they're just choosing, okay, we'll do that improv line.
Yeah.
It's not as funny to me this time as it was the first movie. But Cable shows up for help, seeking help now. And this is when he explains
and
his
also
motive.
Deadpool does do a reversal and a good thing where they're talking about Cable and he goes, he's standing right behind you, isn't he? As he's looking in that direction. I like that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So we get Cable's backstory. Fire Fist grows up to be evil, and he grows up to be evil, and he's responsible for Cable's family's death.
Uh-huh.
So he has gone back in time to kill the kid when he's a kid.
Yeah.
And then I think Deadpool's like, why would you stop there? Go kill Hitler if you can, baby Hitler.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing. I think Cable's like, well, I only have two charges, one to get here and one to get back. And then I think Deadpool says, well, that's weak writing.
yeah. Which totally upends it, and it totally works.
Yeah.
And so then he agrees to give him 30 seconds. That's it to convert the kid over to the light side.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Colossus and recreates the ending of Say Anything.
Yeah.
A movie that you say is really bad, right?
I don't like that movie.
You don't like it.
That scene is just so underwhelming too.
I have to watch it, right?
If you want, I'm not watching it.
No, I know.
It's just it's a classic. It's your classic love story though of this kid who is like lower class and falls in love with this girl who's upper class, and her parents don't approve.
Uh-huh.
So, then I'm probably not remembering correctly, but I just feel this is the template it's using, where the relationship's hard, and then finally, something happens and he says something unforgivable to her about like, you're always going to look down on people like me, blah, blah, blah. You're the worst. And then he does the boombox thing. And that scene was so underwhelming to me. Like most things are when they're built up in pop culture. I didn't care for that movie.
Oh, okay. Well, he does that and Colossus doesn't come.
Which is what happens.
In the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then they get to the final fight. Colossus does come, and they fight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very bad sequence.
It's awful.
This last scene is so bad. I still think though, on the whole, like this movie's much more watchable than most of the X-Men movies.
Yes, that's true.
And there's enough nuggets in these that make up for it and bring this movie up to like a 6 maybe, when it could have easily been a 4, I would say. But there's enough gold that really shines. But yeah, they have this big bad final fight. He does call it a big CGI fight coming up, which is funny.
Yeah.
And then he is able to stop the kid from killing the headmaster.
Well, barely, but yeah. Okay, yeah. If you're there, yeah. But Cable's gonna kill him anyway.
Yeah.
And Deadpool sacrifices himself with that collar on. So
that's why it stops him from killing the guy. Yeah, because Cable's like, no, he didn't get him. Shoots. Deadpool jumps in front of him. Yeah.
So Deadpool is dying.
He's dying, and then he wakes up, and then he starts dying again, and then he kind of wakes up.
Pretty funny scene.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And then he does die and sees Vanessa.
And she's like, it's actually not time yet.
Yeah. So he comes back.
They did kill her off, but at least she shows up throughout the movie and still motivates it beyond just the death.
Yeah, it's still lame.
Yeah.
That's no excuse, Michael.
And then Cable goes back in time. And he like pats Deadpool and he puts the token on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happens, but he shoots him and the token took the bullet. And the kid doesn't kill him, the headmaster, and then
Deadpool doesn't die.
Which is, I liked that whole thing. All this whole sequence, great. That And I like the, him going back. He has to use his charge. He decides not to go back to his family, but instead use the charge for this. That's great. Love all that. And then, but I should say there is that wonderful rendition of "Take on Me," the acoustic version.
It is nice.
And that is beautiful.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is Aha.
Oh.
Or not.
Aha.
Aha. Because that is just a beautiful version of that song.
What is the Alan Partridge thing? Hi, I'm Alan Partridge, seeing me, seeing you. Meeting me, meeting you.
Oh yeah, it's the ABBA lyric.
It's an ABBA
knowing
lyric?
me, knowing you.
Knowing me, I never knew that was a lyric.
Oh, they mention it throughout the show.
Okay,
all
I just
the time.
never picked up on it. So did they say aha in the song?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, knowing me, knowing you.
Oh, duh. It's been a long time, okay, since I've seen the show.
Yeah. And so then we have like the post-credit scene where, well, he's accepted them. These are his new family. And then we have the post-credit scene where he travels back in time and he saves Peter. Then he goes to X-Men Origins.
He saves Vanessa. That's the first thing he does.
Oh, yeah. So that at least she'll be able to come back in the next movie.
I doubt it. But yeah. Why would they? They killed her for this movie.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, they would do it to have her be copycat, of course.
I'll believe it when I see it.
And then he goes to X-Men Origins and kills the Deadpool he played. And he looks at Wolverine and he says, "I'm just cleaning up the timelines here." That's funny. And then he goes to Ryan Reynolds reading the Green Lantern script, who goes, "You made it to the big time, buddy." And then blood splatters all over the script. And
that's funny.
See, that's the magic of Deadpool 2, of a Deadpool movie where it's like, yeah, I don't think this is a good movie. I would say I don't like this movie.
You still would say that?
I would say that.
Okay.
But there's moments like that where it's like, yeah, but it's worth watching just to see moments like that, and I would watch it again.
There is no part in this movie. So yeah, I definitely have big issues, but there is no point in this movie where I'm like rolling my eyes and just like dying for it to be the next scene, because that means it's one scene closer for the movie to be over. As opposed to several movies in this series where that has been my exact thoughts and feelings.
Well, we have covered the worst superhero movie ever made, which is X-Men Apocalypse so far.
So this one's still pretty dang good.
Yeah? Okay. Well,
I like it. Not as much as the first one.
If you like it so much, why don't you marry it, is what I say.
Because I'm married to you.
Thank you. And that's marriage.
Rollerblading or not.
So if you're listening to this movie, this podcast, you know that it's June 9th. You know that. And you know that 2 days ago, we came out with our episode on Kick-Ass 2 on patreon.com/MicahMcCaw. And you know that when you get us to 50 patrons, we are launching an extra podcast on Patreon where we cover all of the Pixar movies. We've been trying to do this for years, folks. It is hard. It is hard to get a fan base.
We've never seen another Pixar movie because we're just waiting.
Yeah, and you guys are lovely, but we need you to turn yourselves into a virus of Macaw Podcast universes and infect all of your friends and family. And that could include, this is not against the law, to borrow your friend's phone or your children's phones or your parents' phones and going to our podcast and rating it 5 stars. That's not going to hurt anybody. And yeah, next week it's Dark Phoenix. We are almost done with X-Men. And then we're going to be doing a wildly different series.
Could be more different.
Yeah, we actually, last week, we had to take a break from X-Men. And we recorded and watched the first one of those episodes.
Yep. We needed a hard reset.
Yeah. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Get on out of here.
Bye.